Edward Bernard Peter Buck is an American businessman, a former model and actor who made a significant amount of money over the years and an avid supporter of the Democratic Party. Buck is accused of paying men and providing drugs in return for sex acts. Buck pleaded not guilty. His defense lawyers said neither fatal overdose victim died from meth and that many of the alleged victims were drug addicts. Buck's 2019 arrest marked a turning point for activists who protested outside his apartment and pressured law enforcement to act after more died on Buck's floor in 2017. Even after Timothy Dean, 55, died 18 months later. It took another 9 months and near death of another overdose victim before Buck was arrested in September of 2019. Dean's sister said, "This man did some terrible things to human beings." Other family members and activists had pushed for Buck's arrest since Moore died. They said Buck escaped criminal charges for years because of wealth, political ties, and race. Ed Buck will never harm anyone else, and I thank God for that, said Joyce Jackson, another one of Dean's sisters. Buck is a wealthy white man who was active in gay causes and animal rights issues. He has given more than $500,000 to mostly Democratic politicians and causes since 2000. Buck is accused of exploiting vulnerable men, most of them black, by paying them to come to his home to use drugs and engage in sex play to satisfy a fetish. Many were destitute drug users who often worked as prostitutes to support their habits. The defense contends all the men were at Buck's apartment under their own will and that Moore and Dean did not die from methamphetamine. U.S. District Judge Christina A. Snyder told jurors, "I know this has been an arduous, lengthy, and difficult process." One of the prosecutors dropped to her knees and wept in the courthouse hallway after the verdict was dismissed. Dane Brown testified that he had overdosed in Buck's apartment twice in 1 week in September 2019. He told investigators he had been living in a hotel on Skid Row when he met Buck on Adam for Adam, a gay dating and escort site, and moved in with him for part of the summer in 2019. Brown accused Buck of injecting him with meth nearly daily for 5 weeks. After his second overdose, Brown said Buck refused to call an ambulance, and Brown was forced to call 911 at a nearby gas station. After 4.5 hours of deliberation, the jury reached a guilty verdict for Edward Buck, rendering the 66-year-old guilty on all 9 counts that he faced. Buck was convicted of 2 counts of distributing methamphetamine that resulted in the deaths of 55-year-old Timothy Dean and 26-year-old Jamel Moore. Each of the 2 charges of distribution of controlled substances resulted in death carried 20-year mandatory minimums. He also faced state charges of running a drug den, but the federal case proceeded first. Finally, Ed Buck will never harm anyone else, and I thank God for that. Dane Brown, a surviving victim of Buck, said, "Walking out of that house, I didn't know what was going to happen next. And I didn't know all of this was going to happen, but I'm so happy and so relieved that these families can get the justice that they deserve because they're the ones who suffered pain more than I did." End quote. Edward Bernard Peter Buck, wealthy donor, gets 30 years in prison for drugging and killing 2 gay men.